teach me something about self-discipline. So let's start. First of all, my first question from you is, what is self-discipline in simple words? So why is self-discipline important in our life? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your interesting answer. So let's start.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. I appreciate that you're looking for something a bit out of the ordinary, so I'll do my best to deliver. Let me know what's on your mind or if there's a particular topic you're itching to dive into.
Trait, how is self-discipline different from motivation? So please give me answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your interesting answer. So let's start.
All right, you're diving into the deep end right away. I like it. So self-discipline's more like a muscle you build over time, you know? It's definitely a skill you can develop rather than something you're just born with or not. Whereas motivation is that spark of energy or that initial excitement that gets you going. The core thing is, self-discipline keeps you going long after that initial motivation fizzles out. Now, what's something you've been trying to build more discipline around? Absolutely. Let me dive in. So, self discipline is definitely something you build like a skill. Imagine it as a muscle that gets stronger with practice. It's not just a personality trait you're stuck with. And when you compare it to motivation, well, motivation is more like a burst of energy that gets you started. The self discipline is what keeps you going when that initial spark fades. So, since we're on the topic, what's something you're working on that you'd like to strengthen your self discipline around?
Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is, can self discipline be learned by anyone? Why? What are the key elements of self discipline? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic and very clearly answer. Let's start.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into it. Anyone can learn self discipline for sure. It's not exclusive to a certain kind of person. I think of it as a set of habits you intentionally build. So the key elements, well, consistency is huge. You got to show up regularly, even if you don't feel like it. Then there's planning, so knowing your woes and breaking them down into manageable steps is key. And finally, a bit of self compassion never hurts. Just being kind to yourself if things don't go perfectly. So tell me, is there a particular area you're looking to apply a bit more self discipline in your life?
Okay, so co-pilot, that's really good answer. So how does self-discipline affect success? Why do many people struggle with self-discipline? So please give me a very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start.
Well, I'm glad you found that helpful. So let's dig a little deeper. Self discipline is definitely a huge factor in achieving success because it's the engine that keeps you moving forward, especially when things get tough or the initial excitement wears off. A lot of people struggle with it because, well, it's human nature to go for instant gratification. It's way easier to pick the short term comfort than the long term goal. And of course, we live in a world full of distractions, so staying focused is tough. All right, is there a particular goal you're working towards where you'd like to apply this?
So co-pilot. Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is, what are common myths about self-discipline? How does mindset influence self-discipline? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start.
Oh, absolutely. Let's bust some myths. So, one big myth is that self discipline is something you're either born with or you're not, which is just not true. Another myth is that it's all about being super strict with yourself 24/7, which isn't sustainable. And mindset plays a huge role. If you see self discipline as a form of self care rather than self punishment, you're more likely to stick with it. All right, I'd love to hear a myth you've come across you want that.
Next question from me is co-pilot. How do daily habits build a self-discipline? Why is consistency more important than intensity? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start. So let's start.
Let's do it. It's always a glass to challenge those old myths. So, yeah, shifting that mindset from this is something rigid and punishing to this is actually how I take care of myself and move towards my goals makes a lot of difference. Now, tell me, is there a particular myth that you've come across that maybe we should tackle together? Absolutely. Let's stretch it out a bit more and give you a fuller answer. So, when it comes to self discipline, mindset is a game changer. If you approach this for self improvement and something ultimately benefits you, it feels a lot less like a chore and more like an investment in yourself. And some people think self discipline means being harsh on themselves, but it's actually about being consistent and setting realistic goals. So, with that in mind, think about it as building a friendly relationship with your future self. Now, is there a particular myth or mindset shift that you've wanted to explore more deeply?
Okay, so my next question from you is how can time management improve self-discipline? What role does routine play in discipline? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start.
Certainly, let's dive in. So, time management and self discipline really do go hand in hand. When you manage your time well, you basically create a structure that makes it easier to follow through on your goals. It's like giving yourself a roadmap so you're not just relying on willpower alone. And routine is absolutely key. It automates the discipline process because you're not constantly making decisions from scratch. So, routines are basically like the scaffolding that helps hold your self discipline in place. So I'd love to hear about any routine you've tried or if there's one you're thinking about building.
Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is how can small habits lead to big changes? How does waking up early affect discipline? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your answers. Let's start.
Absolutely, let's jump right in. So think of time management as a whole to behind the scenes ally of self discipline. When you've got your time allocated wisely, you remove a lot of those willpower hurdles because you know exactly when you're supposed to do what. And routines are like your discipline on autopilot. They help you enter flow where you're not constantly battling with yourself about what to do next. So tell me about some routines you're considering. I'd love to help you build one out.
Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is how can planning the day increase focus? Why is self-control important for discipline? How does distractions weaken self-discipline? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start.
All right, let's dive in. Planning your day is basically like giving your brain a roadmap. Instead of wondering what to tackle next, you've got a clear course, so you're less likely to drift off track. It frees up mental energy to ideally focus rather than constantly making decisions on the fly. Now, self control is the fuel that keeps that plan in motion. It's what helps you stick to the schedule even when distractions fuck up. And speaking of distractions, they do chip away at self discipline because they pull your attention away from what you intended to do, making it harder to stay consistent. So I'd love to hear, do you have a particular distraction that tend to trip you up that we can strategize around?
Okay, So, go Violet. My next question from you is how can we train ourselves is to stay focused? What happens when motivation fades? So, please give me very interesting and pretty long answer on this topic. So, let's start.
Absolutely, let's get into that. Training ourselves to stay focused is a bit like building a muscle. It takes practice and consistency. You can start by setting small, manageable focus blocks of time and gradually increase them, almost like you're leveling up your focus stamina. And when motivation does fade, which it inevitably does for everyone, self-discipline is what keeps you going. It's that ability to stick to your plan even when you're not feeling 100% inspired. So let's chat about what strategies might help you personally on those low motivation days. What do you think?
Okay, so co-pilot, how can stay disciplined without motivation? Is willpower limited or unlimited? So that's my question. So please give me answer on this topic. So let's start.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that one. So, the idea of staying disciplined without motivation is all about relying on habits rather than just feelings. Motivation is great, but it's kind of like a wave that comes and goes. Willpower, on the other hand, is more like a battery that does get depleted if you rely on it too heavily. So, the trick is to build routines and systems that make discipline almost automatic. It's not about having an endless supply of willpower, it's about using it wisely to create habits that take over when motivation dips. All right, tell me a bit about what habits you want to build or where you think you could use that extra bit of structure.
Okay. So Maya, my next co-pilot, my next question from you is, how does self-discipline help during tough times? Why discipline difficult in the beginning? So please give me very long answer on this topic. So let's start.
Absolutely. So the beauty of self-discipline really shines through during those tough times. It's like having a steady anchor when everything else feels stormy. The reason discipline can be hard in the beginning is that you're essentially rewiring your brain and establishing new habits, and that takes a bit of effort and patience. But once those habits are in place, discipline becomes almost like second nature, and it's a lot easier to rely on even when things get tough. So tell me a bit about what tough times you're facing or where you think a bit more discipline can help you out.
Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is how does self-discipline help during tough times? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. I'm waiting for an interesting answers. Let's start.
Absolutely, let's dive right in. Self discipline is like your rock solid friend in those tough times. When everything else feels uncertain or challenging, it's that steady inner strength that keeps you moving forward. It helps you stick to your routines, maintain your commitments, and continue making progress even when motivation is nowhere to be found. It's tough at the start because you're building new mental muscles, but once you've got those habits in place, discipline becomes your anchor. So, what kind of tough times are you navigating? And let's chat about how you can make discipline your ally.
Okay, so co-pilot, my next question from you is how does self-discipline help during tough times, and why is discipline difficult in the beginning? So please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So let's start.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Self discipline during tough times is a bit like having a reliable compass when the weather's rough. It gives you that steady guide to keep you on track, even when everything else feels unpredictable. In the beginning, it does feel tough because you're breaking old habits and forming new ones, and your brain's just not used to that routine yet. But once you get over that initial hump, discipline turns into a kind of muscle memory that really supports you, especially when times are hard. So tell me a bit about what you're going through, and let's talk about how we can make discipline easier for you.
So, co-pilot, how can we overcome procrastination, and how should we deal with laziness? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. I am waiting for your interesting answer and long answers. Let's start.
All right, let's tackle it. Overcoming procrastination and dealing with laziness is a classic challenge that we all face. And it's a bit like outsmarting your future self. One of the best ways is to break tasks down into super small steps that feel almost too easy to start. That way you sidestep that initial resistance. Also, pairing a task with something enjoyable, like listening to your favorite music while you work, can make it feel less like a chore. Ultimately, it's about building momentum and forgiving yourself if you slip up. Everyone does. So let's chat about what tasks you want to tackle first, and we'll brainstorm some ways to make them more doable.
So, Copilot, my next question from you is, how does self discipline help manage emotions? Why do people quit even after starting well? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. I'm waiting for your interesting answers. Let's start.
Absolutely. Let's dig into it. Self discipline is like your emotional anchor. It helps you stay steady when your feelings are all over the place. It means you're not just reacting on impulse, you have that inner structure to guide you through, even when emotions run high. Now, as for why people quit after starting strong, it's often because the initial burst of motivation fades and they haven't built those habits that carry them through. It's all about having that long term discipline to rely on once the excitement wears off. So let's chat about any goals where you've noticed a strong start and we'll figure out how to keep them going. So, managing emotions with self discipline is really about having that steady framework to lean on so that you're not just at the mercy of every mood swing. And yeah, it's super common for people to start strong and then fade out because motivation is like a spark. It's fantastic to get you going, but it's those habits and that discipline that keep the fire burning. So, let's chat about where you want to apply this and we'll figure out some strategies together.
Okay, so my next question from you is, Copilot, how can feelings strengthen self discipline? What are simple daily practices to build discipline? So please give me very interesting and answer on this topic. I'm waiting for interesting answers. Let's start.
Oh, absolutely. So, fitness and self discipline really go hand in hand because when you set those small, consistent fitness goals, you're basically training your discipline muscle at the same time. And the best part is you don't have to start huge, just a simple daily practice like going for a 10-minute walk or doing a bit of stretching can help build that habit. And over time, these little steps add up and they make discipline feel a lot more natural. So, tell me, what kind of little daily routines do you think would work for you?
So, co-pilot, my next question from you is how can goal settings improve self-discipline? How does self-talk affect disciplines? How can rewards help build discipline? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So, let's start.
Absolutely. Let's jump into it. Goal setting is like giving yourself a map. It makes it easier to stay on track because you'll know where you're headed. And self talk is huge. If you're encouraging yourself rather than being self critical, it's like having a personal cheerleader that boosts your discipline. And let's not forget rewards. Treating yourself when you hit those milestones makes the whole process more enjoyable and sustainable. So let's talk about a goal you have in mind and how we can set up some rewards along the way.
Okay. So, my next question from you is why is tracking progress important? How can discipline improve physical health? So, please give me an interesting answer on this topic. So, let's start.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Tracking your progress is so important because it's like having a little roadmap of all the wins you've had along the way, and it really helps keep that momentum going. And when it comes to physical health, discipline is your best friend. It's the thing that gets you out of bed for that morning walk or helps you choose a healthy meal when you'd rather have junk food. So tell me, is there a health goal you're working toward that we can brainstorm on?
Okay. So, co-pilot, my next question from you is how does discipline help mental strength and how can discipline reduce stress in our life? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So, let's start.
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Discipline is a bit like your mental gym routine. It helps you build resilience so that when life throws challenges at you, you're more equipped to handle them. When you have structure and consistent habits, you spend less time worrying about what comes next, which naturally reduces stress. So it's all about creating that inner stability. Now let's chat about a situation where you'd like to bring more discipline in to help manage stress and strengthen your mental game.
Okay. So, my next question from you is how does discipline shape character? What habits should we avoid it to stay disciplined? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So, let's start. मेरी दो माया होने वाली।
Absolutely. Let's dive into it. Discipline is really one of those core elements that shapes who we are over time because it's all about those consistent choices we make, even when no one's watching. It's like building your own personal brand of integrity. And in terms of habits to avoid, definitely watch out for procrastination and that all or nothing mindset because small, steady progress is the name of the game. So tell me a little bit about where you'd like to strengthen your discipline and we'll figure it out together.
Okay, that's really great. So, how can students develop self discipline for studies? How can professionals stay disciplined at work? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic and very clearly answers. Let's start.
Absolutely. For students, self discipline often starts with setting a routine and creating a study environment that's free from distractions. So they're not constantly battling the urge to do something else. And for professionals, it can be about prioritizing tasks and setting clear goals for the day so that you stay on track. The common thread is really about having a plan and sticking to it, but also being kind to yourself if things don't go perfectly. So tell me a bit more about what you're working on and we'll figure out a plan together.
So, my next question from you is how can self discipline help achieve long term goals and how can parents teach self discipline to children? So, please give me very interesting answer on this topic. So, let's start.
Absolutely. So self discipline is key for long term goals because it's what helps you stay consistent when the initial excitement wears off. It's like having that inner compass that keeps you moving forward, even on the days when you'd rather take a break. And for parents teaching kids, it's all about modeling that behavior and making it fun so that they see discipline as a positive thing rather than a chore. So let's chat about a long term goal you have and we'll figure out how to keep that momentum going.
Okay. So, viewer, this was our co-pilot. I hope you like it. I met with a new co-pilot next year.